Hey folks, thanks for stopping by and welcome back to my YouTube channel Czechoslovak Gun Stories. My name is Kuba and in today's episode we are going to discuss a new legislation that should promote the gun ownership in the Czech Republic to the constitutional right. Yeah, that's right, you may be wondering, oh, are the Czechs gonna get a Second Amendment? Well, yeah, let's discuss that in this video. I personally got a lot of questions regarding this topic, so I've decided to address it in this video. However, before we start, we need to first mention why it is necessary for the Czechs to get the firearms ownership into the constitution. So let's have a look at it. In one of my previous videos that you can find here, you probably noticed that the Czech gun laws are very well made, very well balanced. They provide a lot of space for all the collectors, sportsmen, hunters, people who prefer to conceal carry a weapon for their self-defense. So you may be wondering, why do the Czechs need the sort of Second Amendment legislation in the first place? Well, we are part of the European Union. That you know probably already, and you also probably noticed a couple of terrorist attacks that occurred in 2015. On January 2015, a group of Islamist terrorists attacked the offices of the French satiric magazine Charlie Hebdo, killing 12 people there with illegal weapons, obviously. And that sort of that hideous attack triggered the attention of the European Union towards firearms. Later that year, even worse attack occurred in Paris once again. It was actually a series of attacks in November 2015 when another group of Islamist terrorists that belonged to ISIS actually committed a huge attack which comprised of mass shootings and bombings in downtown of Paris, and the result was 130 people dead and over 400 injured. That was enough for the European Union to restart their struggle against the firearms. And well, it would make sense, kind of, but in fact the European Union had two ways to go. Choice number one would be to go after the illegal weapons, and that would make sense because all the terrorist attacks that occurred in the European Union within the last couple of years were committed by the illegal weapons. So if you want to address this risk, you probably should go after the illegal weapons. You should go after the smugglers, the criminals using them, the illegal gun owners, terrorists, etc. That would make sense. That would definitely be the best way to address the problem of terrorist attacks. Unfortunately, it's also not that simple because what European Union typically do to address such issues is that they release a new legislation, and if you release a legislation that you are strengthening the penalties for illegal gun ownership, well, all the illegal gun owners will just laugh at you because they kind of count on being caught and maybe prosecuted for possessing an illegal weapon. So they don't care, right? They just go on with whatever filthy business they do with the illegal weapons. Unfortunately, there's also the choice number two, or the way number two, which is going after the legal weapons. This has no impact whatsoever on the security situation, at least not from the positive perspective, maybe from the negative perspective, that it will worsen the security situation in the European Union. However, it's also much easier because if you release let's say new legislation that says, okay, as of this moment, this type of weapons is banned, this type of magazines is banned, and this and that is banned, and possessing one of the items means that you will face some legal issues. If you consider that the owners of these weapons are law-abiding citizens that have their weapon registered, etc., what do you expect them to do? They will probably go ahead and hand over these now illegal items to the authorities because they don't want to become illegal gun owners, right? However, as I said, the impact on the security situation in Europe is more than anything negative because less legal gun owners means that the security situation in the country will get worse, especially in the Czech Republic when we have a concealed carry possibility, so we can carry the gun for the self-defense, and over 250,000 people do that. Most of them probably regularly, like me. So, yeah, the European Union unfortunately picked the second way, the worst way, and to address the terrorist attacks committed with illegal weapons, they decided to go after the legal gun owners. Well, so that's the core of the problem. Another problem is an agreement that was signed in 2007. It's known as the Treaty of Lisbon. What it does is that it sort of improves the position of the European Union in terms of legislation. As of 2007, the legislation that is passed in the European Union is above the legislation of each and every member state of the European Union. That means that if the European Union decides to push through some legislation, all the member states must sooner or later accept it into their national legislation, because if they wouldn't, then very, very serious penalties could apply. Unfortunately, the very same applies to the new gun grabbing directive, which was actually introduced as a result of those terrorist attacks I mentioned earlier. And so right now, the Czech shooters are kind of under pressure from the European Union because the directive would impact a lot of their rights, a lot of the possibilities of gun ownership in the Czech Republic. So the Czechs decided to fight against this directive. The good thing is it's not only the majority of the political representation in the country, but also the majority of general public is either on our side or don't care at all. That means that the gun grabbers in the Czech Republic are just a very minor group of politicians in general public. They are not all that loud because the Czech Republic is one of the safest countries in the world, and at the same time it allows a very decent amount of possibilities for the gun owners, including the concealed carry. That means that the general public sees, okay, we've got very decent gun laws, and at the same time we have a very low crime rate, we have a very safe country here, so why should we change anything, right? And as a reaction to the directive that was passed by the European Union, the Czech Republic as a state filed a lawsuit against the European Commission and against this directive. However, unfortunately, since the European courtroom is a kind of a body of the European Union, in spring, I believe, 2020, the lawsuit was rejected by them. Obviously, the Czechs expected that, so we had to prepare some other ways to go to keep the firearms ownership in the Czech Republic on the same level as it is now, to keep our guns safe in our vaults. One of the ways, or one of the glimmers of hope, let's say, was the Czech Constitution. As I mentioned, the Treaty of Lisbon is above the legislations of the single member states of the European Union. However, there is an exception, and that's the Constitution. Each and every legislation that is passed by the European Union and should be introduced into the legal system of each and every member state must not be in collision with the constitution of the member state. And so the Czechs decided that it would be nice to sort of promote the gun ownership into the Constitution. So now it's the time for the question, are the Czechs gonna get a Second Amendment? Well, I wouldn't say it's a Second Amendment as such. However, it is a very important part of the struggle against this European Union directive. So, let's have a look at what should be in the Constitution now. The first concept of the new constitutional law sounded like this. Citizens of the Czech Republic have the right to acquire, possess and carry arms and ammunition in order to fulfill the tasks set in subsection 2. This right may be limited by law, and law may set further conditions for its exercise in case that it is necessary for protection of rights and freedoms of others, of public order and safety, lives and health, or in order to prevent criminality. Even though this passed the bigger part of the Czech parliament, the lower house, it didn't pass the other house, the Senate. And so it was rejected. Therefore, a new version was created, which is, in my opinion, much more general, and it's a shame that the previous one was not accepted. The second version sounds like this. The right to defend own life or life of another person, also with arms, is guaranteed under conditions set out in the law. So, as you can see, once again, it's much more general. However, it's sort of a symbol, and it should not work on its own. It should be a part of other ways how to avoid adopting the European Union directive, or also to avoid any further future attempts of the European Union to grab our guns. Now, what are the chances that this is gonna pass? Well, as I mentioned, the first version did not pass the Senate. As for the second version, it was pre-approved by both the lower house of the parliament and the upper house. It was also pre-approved, sort of, by the Czech president. He mentioned that he would sign this constitutional law. So, yeah, we are on a very good way. As per the Czech law, you need 3/5 of all the members of the parliament, or each house of the parliament, to approve some modification of the constitution. So I really hope it will pass in the future. Unfortunately, with the global pandemic situation, it's not very clear if it will pass anytime soon. Certainly, it would be good if it passed before the election, which are planned for next year. So, yeah, it's a good question if it's gonna be pushed through the parliament and signed by the president until the fall of 2021. Anyway, the good news is that apart from one political party, which is more like gun grabber party, all the other parties are generally in favor with this legislation. And what's even more interesting, it doesn't happen at all that majority of the parties actually have the same opinion on one particular legislation. Even communists are in favor of this legislation. So look at that. Actually, commies would like the weapons to stay in the vaults of the Czech shooters and gun owners. That's insane, right? However, yeah, so we got a very good chance that this legislation will pass. Right now, it was pre-approved. It will probably need to be addressed by several committees. There's gonna be some experts giving their own advices and maybe trying to further modify the law as such, etc. So yeah, it's pre-approved. It's now open for discussion, and hopefully it will pass in the end. So as the popular Czech idiom says, this is not the only ace we have up in our sleeve. Yeah, we are Czechs. We are great in avoiding the stupid legislations and stuff that we don't want to comply with. There's much more activity going on in regards to the European Union anti-gun directive. There's also a novelization of the Czech gun laws, which is actually discussed right now among the experts and politicians, etc. There's already a draft which looks pretty good. There are some restrictions, but once again, there are also exceptions, which, if they will work on the shell issue basis, I'm quite fine with that. If it will calm down the European Union, why not? After all, it should also have at least one positive outcome, and that's the legalization of silencers or suppressors, which would be great because they are right now restricted in the Czech Republic, and there's just no way you can get a suppressor for your firearms. So that should be a positive outcome of the whole situation. So the gun grabbers from the European Union will have a hard time with us, as it seems. Unfortunately, they're also trying other ways. For example, the very recently approved lead ban, which should actually put restrictions on the use of ammo that contains lead. However, that's a topic for another video in the future. So guys, that's it for the new legislation and new updates on the Czech gun laws. As you can tell, probably the future doesn't look all that dull, so maybe we have sort of a bright future ahead. Hard to say. However, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, like it, use the comment section should you have some questions, some remarks, whatever you would like to discuss with me, and until next time.